Yeah.
All right, we are live.
All right.
Just a couple more minutes before meeting starts.
That's it. All right. Call to order the special meeting for the city council on July 31st, 2023. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield,
Here.
Councilmember Brenner,
Here.
Gallagher,
Here.
Feener,
Here.
Rowland,
Here.
McMillan,
Here.
and Mayor Hodges is excused this evening.
Great. Next item of business is our pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. Next, we have public comment on agenda items. Anyone in the public care to speak?
Julius, this is you, man.
No?
Marion? No?
Marion, no? All right. All right, since there's no public comment, we'll go on to our next item, number 5, which is new business. Under new business, any council comment before we get into the reasons we're here today?
I just want to ask,
Yeah.
Housing the city manager, be any progress with the dumpster for food?
I'm hoping we're gonna get that dumpster tomorrow morning. Otherwise, we'll put out a notice too that residents can start using the dumpsters that are down there at Parks and Rec right now to dispose of food. So we'll put out a notice citywide.
Thank you. Any others?
Yes.
Yep.
On that note, there was, in the farms, they also put a dumpster out and it was really well received by the residents and they were really grateful for it. They had many
Kirby?
views. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, exactly. And so the residents were able to come and take all the food that was put on the dumpster. They were really happy about it, so that's great. I guess on that note, as I'm driving up and down the streets, I'm still seeing, there's a lot of, still trees, rubbish. Do we know when the DPW guys are gonna be able to shred all of that? When, how are we approaching that? Because it's been over a week sitting there and the grass is probably gonna go underneath all of that.
Yeah, so we were hoping, by the middle of this week that we could do it. I'd say maybe Wednesday or Thursday might be best. I know Grosse Pointe Woods, they have some short staff over there, so they couldn't help us today, but the wood staff will be here tomorrow. I understand Wednesday, talking with Tom Jenny, so I was to imagine hopefully mid to later this week we'll have everything cleaned up. I know there's, we did identify there was an alley that had a downed pole. We touched base with DTE, and then over by Tom and Bacos, there was a pole that had some trouble. I think it's that Fairfax area that DTE's working with. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. There's a tree there that's covering 2 cars. It's blocking the sidewalk there off of.
Yeah.
I think it's on Fairfax and the garage. Did you see that?
The corner house of Barrington.
Yeah.
And then after that, after we're cleaned up, we've offered assistance to Grosse Pointe Farms if they need our assistance for Public Works to help clean up. So,
Good.
Any other comments? None taken. We'll move into one of 2 reasons we're here, the resolution of proposed amendment to Charter Section 916, collection of fees. I was gonna probably turn that over to you to best explain more clear why we're here.
Do we need to make a motion to discuss
Would
it?
you like a motion or?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vayner, second by Gallagher. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So at our last council meeting, we adopted 3 resolutions to propose amendments to our charter. The first one was with regard to section 9.16. That has to do with collection fees with regard to property taxes. Historically, the city treasurer's office would collect property taxes. They would collect them and not charge a collection fee until September 14th or after September 14th, but that is not what our charter said. And they would also charge a 1% per month collection fee. The charter says 1% per month and then an additional 0.5% per month after that. To clean everything up, we initially proposed that we would just adopt the language of the Michigan General Property Tax Act, which specifically states that all taxes paid on or before September 14th will not be charged a collection fee, and then any taxes paid after that date would be charged a collection fee of 1% per month. In order to provide more clarity to residents, the AG suggested that rather than just have this general reference to the Michigan General Property Tax Act, we spell it out. And frankly, I'm inclined to agree with him. So he and I worked together on language that would be very, very clear, would cause no further confusion in the future. And that is what is before you tonight. So specifically, in order to keep things not so different from the language of the charter that is originally in the charter today, we adopted that language with just some amendments to reference September 14th being that due date for summer taxes. And then instead of adding that 0.5%, we struck that language and made it 1% per month. So that's the proposed language for 9.16. And that is why we're here today, because the AG requested that we make some changes to make it more clear. And unfortunately for this election cycle, the governor's office and the AG bumped up their deadline for the date that we have to have these submitted to both the AG and the governor's office, which is why we had to call a special meeting and have this adopted today rather than waiting for 2 weeks. So my apologies, but I think we're all in agreement this is best for residents. So that's why we wanted to get it before you rather than having it languish until next election cycle. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
I guess just the specific language that you just worked through, what was it that he was not, what was vague? And
Very good question. So before, the proposal that we had at the last council meeting just said, taxes shall be paid in accordance with the Michigan Property Tax Act, and interest shall be charged in accordance with the Michigan General Property Tax Act. It didn't say any of the specifics. So in lieu of that, we spell out the due date, we spell out the collection fee. It's very, very clear now in the language of the charter amendment.
thank you.
I guess if there's no other questions, my only comment is, we should be voting on this one and then going to the next one. Or do you want us to
Yes.
vote on one? Okay.
Yes.
All right, is there any other questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilmembers Brenner,
Yes.
Gallagher,
Yes,
Weiner,
Yes.
Rellen,
Yes.
and McMillan.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We have new clear verbiage. Second one is the resolution to propose an amendment to Charter Section 3.6, Section 3.10 to eliminate primary elections for city officers. And Morgan, you want to just go ahead and read us? Motion, yes, thank you, Councilmember Wynn. Seconded by McMillan. And Morgan, the floor is yours.
Perfect. All right, this one's nice and simple. There's no changes to the language of the proposed charter amendments themselves. But the AG requested that instead of having this as two proposals on the ballot, we have it as one single proposal since it deals with the same issue. It's two sections, which is why we initially had it as two proposals. But all they're doing is eliminating references to the primary election since we're trying to eliminate that. So in lieu of having this confusion about whether to vote yes for one, no for the other, the AG proposed that we have one simple ballot proposal in which we vote yes or no for both of these amendments. That's all this change is.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Just discussion.
Yep.
I've been thinking about this, and as we saw with our school board vote, we didn't have a primary there, and that diluted everyone's vote. Nobody got more than 20%. I don't think anyone got more than 17% of the vote, and yet they won. So I think it dilutes each of our votes that are cast. I think with a primary, we give that power more to the people. It's a small price to pay for that. I don't know, what was it, $7,000 to $8,000 we have?
Kind
12.
Yeah.
10, 12, okay. So then, but no one gets a majority, and that really ultimately hurts our election. So I'm gonna vote no on changing this. I think we should have primaries in our nonpartisan elections.
Any other comments, questions?
I think it's a good point. I think it's a really good point. It does dilute. And it's, to your point about costing the residents, where there's a cost financially, there's another cost on the other side, for the residents.
I disagree. I think it's a waste. I think this is just a lot of work and cost for an election that's going to be clarified anyway. We have a full election. You see what the turnout is in primary versus the general. I think historically we've had 3 primaries in 40 some years. I don't see the value in doing this. I think just like was voted at last meeting, I'm supporting putting this on the ballot. And again, this is a ballot proposition to the residents. This is not us dictating that there will or won't be a primary. If the residents see fit to have a primary, they can decide so in November. But again, I'm moving forward for the obvious reasons. It's streamlining.
I guess my only comment would be, we voted on this at the last meeting, and was it passed unanimously?
Correct.
I don't know, changing a vote for,
So here's the problem. Initially, when we voted at the last agenda, we had to have a 3/5 majority of the council in order to vote to propose. That was adopted.
correct,
So that was already adopted. This is just voting to amend the resolution with regard to the ballot language. Regardless, it is going on the ballot, because that was already adopted. This is simply changing that ballot language. That's what's before us tonight,
so
unfortunately.
based on both comments from Councilmember Rowland and Councilmember Gallagher, because we've already adopted this, the only thing we are going to vote yes or no on is the change of verbiage.
Exactly right, exactly right. And just for clarity, the proposal does need 3/5 of a majority of the council in order to adopt that. But this, because it's not a proposal, because the proposal has already been adopted, we just need a simple majority.
One more question. Yeah, thank you. So if we're looking to save money, I asked the clerk last meeting, would it behoove us to save more money if we switch the elections to even number years? And if we're really looking for money savings, like you mentioned, that might be the way to go. Rather than taking the power out of people's hands for primaries.
Are you proposing language to be put in, to add in?
That needs to be a
That
discussion.
would have to be a
Yeah,
future
There's
discussion,
some research needed.
research needed on.
I will, I'm still doing my research to think if I can propose for that to be on the agenda in the future months. So that we can all have a month or so to think about it and talk about it, and of course, do some background research.
Yeah, I believe that it's not a ballot proposal, it's just a simple resolution of the council.
I believe so, I believe that's correct.
So that's something that can be adopted.
Yeah, so in the coming, maybe week or so, I'll reach out to you to see if there's any research you have or any numbers that you can share.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a big savings, it's $25,000 that we save. So,
Should be looked at.
Absolutely.
Worth looking at.
Yes, it's a great idea.
yeah, so if, back to this, if we do vote no, the verbiage still won't be approved, so we wouldn't be able to put on the ballot this year then.
The whole,
So here's the problem. It goes before the governor to approve the not the ballot language, the actual charter amendment language. It goes before the AG's office to approve the ballot language. If the governor doesn't approve it, it can come back before us, and then by 2/3 majority, we can still put it on the ballot.
Okay.
That's just for the charter amendment language. If we do not approve this change, and the AG doesn't approve the ballot language, then that's a question that we need to discuss with the AG. Because there is no clear language in the statute that says if the AG doesn't approve this, this is what's gonna happen, because it's assumed that the AG will approve it. Because for the most part, they do. That's just the summary. They just want to make sure it's clear for the electors. I would imagine they would want us to come back and discuss it further. Something is going on the ballot. It's just a question of what the language looks like. It's already been proposed that the charter is going to be amended to eliminate the primary. So that question is going to go on the ballot. It's just how we work with the AG to get that language approved to be on the ballot.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if we vote it down.
No.
is what you're saying.
It's in our best interest to approve it simply because this has already been approved and that will
Right.
streamline this in the future. If you, and this obviously is advice moving forward, if you feel strongly about this, my recommendation would be to talk to the residents. If you think they'll feel strongly about it too.
Mhm.
Because this still truly.
Yeah, it's still
It
power.
goes
We're not
before, yeah.
approving- We're not approving,
Yeah.
but they still have to vote on this.
Yeah, it's there. We're not making a decision. We're just putting it out there
Yeah.
for it to possibly. be.
Yeah, and obviously, everyone can vote however they want. That's your jobs here. You're gonna make your decisions, but this is the recommendation of the AG, and I do think that it's in everyone's best interest, especially our residents, to approve this ballot proposal language because it's the one that makes the most sense. Right now, we have two different pieces, and the issue is if, say, the primary election piece, the removal of the primary election piece gets approved, but then the section 310, which references primary elections as a deadline, doesn't get approved, then we have this issue where we are forced to amend the charter later and in the interim can't abide by the language of the charter, which puts us in a similar situation as we're in right now with section 9.16. So we would prefer not to do that, or I would recommend that we don't do that. Obviously, the opposite could happen, then the residents don't approve the primary election removal and they remove the reference to the primary election. That'd be fine. That doesn't cause any problems. So if that's what happens, it's not a big deal. It just simply is a little bit easier to propose it as one ballot amendment. And it's what's going to make sense to everyone who's going to be voting.
Okay, so.
How many primaries in the last 4 years, you said? Three? So not too much cost to the residents, really, over a long period of time.
But in the last 2 years, or the last 2 cycles.
Two of the three have been in the last 2 cycles.
Sounds like your proposal, the cost would be, I'm sorry, Councilmember Raymond, would be actually more cost savings to our residents than.
I mean, we
Yeah.
Do both, yeah.
Well, that's why we're gonna research. it.
And as you say, it is the residents who are voting and the language is in front of them, so they decide.
And just a reminder, we did approve this at our last meeting. I think that's.
No, it was.
And just one quick comment. I mean, we had a ton of people running for school board. The winner gets 20%. Well, even with the primary, we still have 6 people on the ballot and still nobody gets 50%. I mean, it's the same even
They
with the
could.
primary.
They could if it's a strong candidate, it's not.
I mean, they could if there were 100 on and,
That's right.
anyway.
That's right.
It seems a rather moot point, but we're just voting on words anyway today, so.
The one thought I have on, if we move it to the presidential election, then I think we'll have voters going there that might not be informed of what's happening at the city council. That's why I like it on the off year, because people going to vote actually are informed.
That's not germane to this vote. Like that's.
I know,
I
in the future, I think that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm all for whatever cost savings, but right now we're voting on
Yeah.
the language.
You bring up a great point, and I think needs to be researched. I think it's smart that we do, but I think right now in front of us is voting on this language that the AG has requested. Any other comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield.
Yes.
Council members Brenner,
Yes.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Wiener,
Yes.
Rowland,
No.
McMillan,
Yes.
All right, motion carries because we just need a majority, right? So
Yep.
okay. All right. That moves us to our next agenda item, which is public comment on non-agenda items.
Julius, you can say
Julius?
anything you want.
If you have.
It's my comment is what ice cream he's got in front of him.
All right, since there is no public, I move on to an adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved second.
Seconded by Rellen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield.
Yes.
Council members Brenner,
Yes.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Wiener,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
and McMillan.
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned.
You ever know?
Takes the information.
All right.
Of course, yeah. Technically, this is my whole job. You know, I have, oh, nice. It's
Yes.
I'll see if I can get.
No, be nice and quick.
Okay, what kind you getting me? How old is Mary?
Oh, yeah.
Mary's. Julia, you gonna get?
Turning 10.
What's your favorite flavor?
Oh, my